We are live. I'm Seb 3.0, and today I'm here with my guest, Sam, from Node Guardians and Journal du Coin. Node Guardians is a platform that allows developers to level up their dev skills, and he's also the founder of Journal du Coin, which is France's premier crypto media YouTube channel, and just like all around, very influential guy in the French crypto space. He also organizes a StarkNet conference here in France. And so today we're going to be talking about all of that. And I'm also trying to find out why Sam thinks bare metal is better suited for validator infrastructure. I tend to agree with that. But anyway, all that's coming up right here on the Interrupt. Hello. Thanks for joining me, Sam.
Love the intro. I'm addicted to that new jingle intro you added.
Yeah.
In 2 episodes, it's here. And as a listener, it's very odd for me to be here. So I'm very honored and humbled to be on the show. And it's funny to be on the other side. And this jingle feels as good as a guest than as a viewer. It's really a pleasant experience all the way. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, well, it's a pleasure to have you too. And also, like, I feel a little bit like starstruck because, like, you're fucking huge. Like, you got like such a huge audience, in the French crypto sphere, but like also beyond. Like, I think like you got your beginnings in France, and certainly like Journal du Coin is a pretty influential crypto media organization in France, and you've got your YouTube channel and everything. But like, you're so much bigger than like even Epicenter or any of the other podcasts I'm working with. So it's really cool to have you on and like talk to someone who's like, really grown a massive audience.
You're talking to your own fan. I started listening to Epicenter probably before starting any venture in that space, in that field. So all the credit goes to you. Like, seriously.
Oh, thank you. So like, I mean, we kind of like met in person and like started chatting and talking a little bit more like in the last year or so. But like, you've been in this space since I think like 2016 or something like that. And, we didn't really cross paths then, like when you were living in France. And, I think like around that time, I was really focused on building like this, like Stratum, this enterprise blockchain company. And like I realize now that like a lot of the, I went to a few of the meetups in Paris, like the ETC, or sorry, the what used to be called ASF, the Association Ethereum meetups, but I wasn't like very plugged into the community, and it's only like later that I kind of came in. So we didn't really like cross paths back then, I think. But yeah, tell me about your like background and like where how you got into crypto and like how you got to start working on Journal du Coin.
Sure. So my beginnings in crypto, I started hearing about crypto around back in the days when Zcash was doing its trusted setup. And sometimes you have that friend that tells you about Ethereum, but you just listen to it and basically you don't really like get hooked, and that's it. I was just hearing about it from like this whole thing, this whole technology, and well, nothing special happened. And in 2017, I had that friend that I used to visit, who indirectly kind of orange pilled me, or ETH pilled me, let's put it this way, because they were using darknet markets, and the whole process, the way they could basically like get a commodity, something to their house, leveraging a network that is totally parallel network that doesn't function, or doesn't comply with all the rules that are set, doesn't go through without going through the traditional networks, to put it this way. I was really like amazed. So I think I was sold. Programmable money, the programmable money concept totally got me hooked, and I started educating myself on a regular basis. But yeah, I was doing med studies, so this was taking a lot of bandwidth. And so
you were studying to be a doctor?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
And so I was not really inspired with that career path. I just did that so my parents, get a bit relieved, and they're not, just to avoid stressing them. And I was not that inspired, and I was just like, I'm just gonna take a year off and see how I can make this work and get involved into something that truly resonates within me. And if it doesn't work, it's totally okay. So I kind of halted studies to focus on crypto, and I started to see how I could contribute to that space and increase my knowledge. I'm from a city called Toulouse in the south of France. It's like the
Yeah.
fourth biggest city. Started doing something called the beer coin, like beer coin, twice a month. It is a meetup that gathers people that share an interest for Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies, and started meeting some folks, some friends who are my current partners nowadays, and started learning a bit more about that whole space. And we got together to start something called Journal du Coin. JournalDuCoin.com is a media that basically covers what's going on in the world of crypto in the space. And 7 days a week, we try to cover what's going on, and we abstract the complexity of some concepts, some news, and we serve that in French in a genuine way. And we also have a label, operating, sorry, on YouTube. There you can find some podcasts, you can find some streams, some 30 streams where we discuss all things, the Cosmos governance, or also some less sexy incidents like what happened with, I don't know, Celsius or FTX. All sorts of debates are happening there. And yeah, this was pretty much how I got involved with the space at a local scale. And yeah, I guess the rest is history. Many things happened after, and here I am. We got fortunate to, things grew. There was that bull market back in 2017. There weren't that many actors in that field too, and slowly but surely we managed to get a few million readers on a monthly basis, or 1-2 million, not a few million. And now I think it's about the same numbers, and we're just trying to keep it up, not having the quality decrease, and that's it, and keeping the same frequency despite the market being a bit hostile.
Yeah, like that first mover advantage, I think is huge. And in those days, there weren't a lot of quality media outlets covering crypto in French. And by the way, like for our audience, like the French speaking world goes far beyond France. There's like parts of Canada that have French speakers, also like a lot of Africa, North Africa, and so having that kind of language niche is huge, especially if you're providing quality content and educating people, not just providing content, but like I think just educating people on some of the key concepts, right? Like what's consensus, what's a blockchain, what, like just these very basic things that you can find pretty easily in English. And there's many, there's like you can find all flavors of this kind of stuff in English, but to find really good quality content in like a sort of I don't know what French is, maybe like the third or fourth most spoken language in the world. Yeah, it's really valuable. And I think a lot of people probably came into crypto around that time, in 2017, 2018, during that bull market, watching your videos and like reading Journal du Coin.
Yeah, I hope so, and I hope they're still among us until this day, and everything went well for them in that field. So, yeah, it's been a crazy ride, and France is quite a huge region when you think of it. Like the French speaking world is rather large. I think it's about like 200-300 million French speakers.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's quite a big community we have here.
Yeah. And you don't produce any content in English, or do you?
So on Journal du Coin, if you visit the channel, you're gonna see some podcasts with, for instance, Adrian Brink or someone from, like even Jay from Say. These are recorded in English, and they're subtitled in French, so people who are not familiar with English can also enjoy it. So you can find some content that's actually in English, subtitled in French, but the core of the content, I would say 50% of the content is 50% of the content is
in French.
Is in French, yes.
Yeah, this is something that I also thought about at some point. I think early in the days of Epicenter was, okay, like how do we because through Epicenter we had this network of people like outside of France, and I think like there were a few people around that time that had that, and I was thinking like, hey, how can we like create content in French? And it's like, well, none of these people speak French, so it doesn't really make sense. But sort of missing the point that if your audience, it's about the audience, right? It's really about like creating the audience, and if you can deliver that content to them, subtitled or with like dubbing or whatever, like they're still going to be there and they're still going to appreciate the content. I guess like I hadn't thought like that far ahead about doing content in French and sort of like let the idea kind of go by. But yeah, like you guys like nailed that niche and nailed that like that sort of general geographic linguistic audience pretty well, and allow them to also get access to like people like Adrian Brink, like people like Jay from Sayer, like all these folks who generally wouldn't come on a like non-English speaking podcast, but just delivering that knowledge directly to that community. It's really impressive.
Yeah.
Let's.
Yeah.
Sorry. Go ahead.
No. Nothing relevant. Yeah.
Okay. So you're working on a couple of different things also. So I want to talk about Stark CC or StarkNet CC.
Yes.
StarkNet CC, and then also Node Guardians. I think Node Guardians is really like it's such an interesting idea, and like the first time you told me about this, I was like, wow, this is super cool. I mean, this really, I think, it encapsulates a lot of the this kind of play to earn model, but in a way that feels very native to crypto. And like play to earn, there's like so much, like it's such a loaded term. It almost serves you like does a disservice to what you guys are doing. But yeah, like can you talk about Node Guardians and like what it is and what you're hoping, what's the vision here, and then we can get into some of the details.
Of course. I don't see Node Guardians as a play to earn, but yeah, it is clearly a platform where you get to play and earn something. But play to earn is connotated, associated with some other types of projects, which I totally respect. But I really think that a Node Guardian is different. There's no hierarchy. It's not better, but it's just different. So Node Guardian is, I like to call it an RPG, a role-playing game to challenge your Solidity skills for now, and later other stacks will be supported. So as the name suggested, it is also an infrastructure provider. We run nodes and RPCs across different networks. And beyond that, we try to contribute to this ecosystem by creating an RPG-like experience to challenge developers. For now, that is like what we offer. As a developer, you log in with your Web3 wallet. You don't need to share your email or any personal data whatsoever or pay anything. And you choose quests that you want to solve. Quests are basically programming challenges, logic problems, capture the flag exercises that you need to solve. And the way we twist them is, I think that's what makes the quests really stand out here, is that you have some kind of story, some backstory to it. And each quest, like some quests are linked to each other because there is a bigger picture, some form of lore that glues all of these quests together. So you want to finish that campaign to kind of see how everything unfolds. You start to maybe, get attached to that very specific character in the lore. And when you complete that quest, you get rewards in the form of gold and experience points. They're soulbound, you cannot trade them, and they will basically allow you to craft items that basically show your degree, your level of commitment into a specific field of programming, whether it is low-level programming or data structure and algorithm. Maybe you want to craft that armor that shows that you're much involved with this domain-specific language, with this protocol. You can craft this and build your developer identity on the platform. There is a bit of a social aspect on the platform. So you complete this quest, you craft cool items, a la Skyrim or Oblivion or other RPGs, which I used to play a lot. And yeah, you get to basically test your skills and maybe hopefully have fun in the process. And if you want to connect with our engineers to ask your questions, you can go on Discord. Your Discord identity is linked to your Node Guardians profile. And depending on how many quests you have completed, there are like different, let's say, mage groups, and you can basically also chat with other fellow node guardians that have completed a similar amount of quests and explore synergies, try to discuss potentially like, the solution to a certain problem and everything. There are a lot of features that we're planning to implement real soon or in the coming month. I don't like to promise stuff and like say it's going to be amazing and everything. So I try to be cautious with that, but there are going to be more quests that are coming on the platform, more campaigns. In the future, we plan to integrate other programming languages, other stacks, and other form of challenges like gas golfing. So for instance, gas golfing is I give you a problem and you need to solve it while being the most efficient in gas. And then we can generate a leaderboard that basically ranks people and lets you see where you look at where you are against other guardians. And you can have a monthly gas golfing challenge, and people that end up, for instance, in the top 15 or top 20, they can craft that very specific item that is, let's say, limited edition, that is very like temporary. You can explore all these different things, and I think that kind of makes it fun. Yeah, so that's pretty much what Node Guardians is. You have some kind of RPG to challenge developers. If you're not a developer, you're not left out at all. You have a specific type of quest that are called theory. Theory quests are articles about distributed systems and decentralized finance that are explaining you concepts like, I don't know, data availability or scaling approaches for a blockchain and everything. We always team up by someone who's very familiar with a specific domain, whether it is scaling or zero knowledge cryptography. They produce an article that we kind of make, we arrange it to fit our lore, like with infographics and stuff. And you get to learn also something about blockchains. And at the end, you can challenge your understanding by doing an MCQ. And if you get it right, you can also get some loot and craft some cool items. So I also invite you to check it out if that's something of interest to you. And again, the last category, I think I said it earlier, we're a staking provider. You can also delegate on our nodes if that's something you can consider doing that, but it's nothing important, of course. Yeah.
This is super cool. I just kind of stumbled upon the roll-ups page here, and I wish I would have read this morning, because I did an interview on Epicenter with the Fuse guys, and they basically have this very same graph here about like the differences between Validium and sovereign roll-ups and smart
This is a
contract roll-ups.
classic. Celestia uses it. Starcore uses it. Everyone
Yeah.
uses it. Oh.
Yeah, no, this is super cool. Like I think there's so much to this. Like, I mean, beyond just the fact that, well, it's fun, right? So like I've done a few Solidity tutorials and this kind of thing, and like, yeah, it was didn't pursue those things very far, I think. And what strikes me about this is it's fun, right? There's this competitive aspect to it also, where there's other people that are also like completing these guilds, and it's like an RPG. So like I'm not a big gamer, but like like there's an RPG, so you're like leveling up as you become more proficient in like these programming skills. And but then there's all of this kind of underlying utility to what you guys are building. So you mentioned that you're using a soulbound token. Like it's kind of an attestation service in a way, in the same way that, say, POAP is an attestation service that you were somewhere or you met someone. This is an attestation service that like you've done some work. And
yes.
There's a lot that you can do with that, and a lot that you can unpack there. You were going to say something. Sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, I just wanted to add a little correction here. It is soulbound in a sense that it is linked to our identity, but it is not issued in the form of an NFT yet. Our data set is designed in a way that we can potentially in the very near future migrate it on chain. But so far, this is a rather centralized product, and we just wanted to let people know that. But
yeah, okay. Yeah, we can maybe talk a little bit more about like exactly what those tokens look like. But so from the perspective that this is an attestation service, right? It's a platform that allows you as an individual to prove that you've done something, that you've done a course, or that you've read some information and understood the the main, the sort of the crux of what's being explained, that you've successfully completed some programming task and arrived at a result. What can we do with this information, or what can like companies or people who are hiring, or even like for the developers also, like how do they leverage this information?
It's a great question you're asking here, and I didn't venture into. So in our roadmap, the next, let's say, layer brick that we want to build on top of what's currently out there is a matchmaking engine between ecosystem and contributors. So we can prove to a certain extent that you have solved an arbitrary programming challenge. So let's say I am a recruiter or I am a foundation and I'm looking for a new Go engineer. I don't know. I can design a custom set of challenges to add some kind of filter, a constraint before people can actually submit their application to me. And I can basically be matchmade with a set of developers that have proven that they've completed that. Of course, we're not perfectly Sybil resistant, but it's still very annoying to try to cheat the system and everything. And you can potentially increase the quality of the applicants for an arbitrary opportunity. Beyond that, for open source contribution, let's say we need to build a new bridge between Polygon and Mina or something like that. And we would like to call the ecosystem a community of devs to potentially solve that challenge. A bit like, you have this bounty board in The Witcher 3, and, witchers can basically apply to kill that dragon to get the reward. So you and your lads, you can apply as a team, as a raid team, and you can say, look, we've accomplished this in the past, and we would like to solve that problem. We would like to apply for that grant. And the foundation can review the different groups that are tagging together to solve that problem and eventually take better decisions because every developer comes with their folio. I mentioned folio here because on Node Guardians, you can share your profile and you have some kind of journal that keeps track of what you solved. And we would like to explore for next year, add functions that allow you also to import the reputation you have acquired on other, let's say, well-respected DAOs or developer communities and inject it into your Node Guardian identity. So the progress you've done elsewhere is not wasted. It is, again, ingested by your Node Guardian profile, and it gives you get a better trust on the platform. So this is something I think is very exciting to build and could definitely help all ends get the best out of everything. And we want to do it, and I'm very attached to that concept in a way that doesn't compromise people's identity. Like, of course, we have cookies, we collect a bit of data, but we don't store, we're not asking people to give their email. We're not asking your name or family name. You can apply for an opportunity without giving anything to us. And if you don't want any notification, you can also disable everything. We really want to give people all the choices on whether they want to be contacted or not. So they don't feel like this is something I'm very attached to. You can just use the platform. And if you just want to use the platform, you don't want to be matchmaker, you don't want to share your information, then it's up to you. And I think this is very important to make the most inclusive community because a lot of people are extremely attached to that privacy. And we really hope to keep on building that platform without making it intrusive for the user or without forcing people to do an action on social networks to access free content and stuff like that. Even though I perfectly understand this marketing methods, I think it's going to be a challenge and a very interesting path to explore to grow a product without forcing people to share something about themselves. One is important, I think, about the platform.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's important that the platform allows people to just learn, and if they don't want to share any information, but then given the opportunity, I think you guys are well positioned to leverage all of these people to help companies like Recruit, right? I was talking to a guy yesterday, and he's telling me that they're hiring a I think you know who this person is actually. That they're hiring a Solidity developer. They're looking for a Solidity developer, and they're running into this problem that they're getting kind of like scammers applying for positions, and the way that they're doing it is I didn't know this, but apparently they'll get there's one or two good sort of like decent programmers in the group, and then a bunch of guys that just have no clue. And then they'll go through an interview with like no camera. A lot of these guys are like in Asia, so like maybe for like Americans or Westerners, it's hard to tell the difference between like one person or another, especially if they don't have their camera on. They'll do a test. They'll basically sort of pass the interview, get a job, and then like after a month, after they've received payment and basically done nothing, they just kind of run off. They just kind of run off with the money. And like this is but if they're getting positions that are paying like 4 or 5 6,000 grand a month, and they're doing this like all the time, it's like a decent chunk of money, right? So with something like this, like you can actually show that it takes a lot more work, and there's a much higher barrier to entry to doing like a scam like this if you're leveraging this and like other attestation services to kind of prove that you are who you say you are, or that you have the skills that you think that you say you have. I wonder if this is something that also like companies maybe that you're interacting with, or maybe like prospective customers are also concerned with.
Trust, you mean being able to attest, to confirm that someone has a certain skill set and everything. I believe entities that do recruit show an important interest for that aspect, and I think that we're trying to build that trust network at a humble scale right now, and I really think that this is the way to go. And as the platform becomes more exhaustive and more integrated, we will be able to connect with other initiatives, other hackathons, other communities, and we'll be able to have some kind of score, an index that can more in the future, as time goes, it can be accepted as something that really represents someone's genuineness. And that's a huge problem to tackle. Maybe this solution will not work, but I think that doing it this way might make the process fun for everyone. And hopefully it works out. I think there is it's a very big problem to tackle, and we're excited to give it a try here.
Yeah. On the other hand, I was in a governance call the other day. I think it was for Evmos, and someone was arguing that basically, if as a DAO, if you're going to get hired by a DAO and the DAO is going to pay you, then like this person was arguing that the community, that you should be doxxed. You should have your LinkedIn out, your qualifications, all these things. And I guess in absence of some kind of attestation that you're competent and that you've completed, previously other tasks, or maybe even like something like Git POAP, right? Like I see Git POAP as another form of attestation that you've contributed meaningfully to open source. Without that, like, of course, if you're going to like get hired by a DAO, you're just like some handle on Discord, or maybe like an Ethereum address or something like that. It's difficult to establish trust there, especially if you're taking funds from a community, right, where there's like, the implication of voters might not be such that you can like take someone out of that contractual relationship fairly quickly until some damage is done. So I think like this certainly adds to the weight of one's competency and like previous work.
You can go to jail if you contribute to certain chunks of to certain type of code, and I think it's important not to be doxxed if that is actually your wish. Imagine you're working on some zero knowledge solution, or and then you're basically summoned. I mean, like the cops, you get swatted because you contributed code for this. It would have been nice to be able to contribute and get remunerated, like get paid without having to compromise your identity. And it's nice to have an option. And if we can keep that option for, let's try to build solutions that allow us to keep that option. And it's definitely not easy.
Yeah. What's the business model here, and how? How are you making money with this other than staking rewards? Which also I want to ask you about staking rewards, and why are you also a staking provider?
That's sure. Happy to answer that. So yeah, we are a staking provider. So we take money through our staking, like through our nodes. We take commissions on different networks, and that generates some income. We try to also do delegation programs while contributing to ecosystems. We can increase the stake that's delegated on an arbitrary node to be able to generate more income out of this operation. The question you asked about what's the link between being a pure educational player and an infrastructure player, let's say, is that we would really like to create some kind of one-stop hub for the developer. You're not forced to, but let's say you come to learn for free, and then you're ready to go at production level. You're ready to ship code on the mainnet, and you want to use an RPC service. You might as well use the dashboard that's on Node Guardians. Use do your queries through our infrastructure. If you feel like it, you might consider using our infrastructure, and you pretty much get like a suite of tools, not only RPCs but different like items that you can just get from this thing, which was initially a platform to learn or to compete against other developers on the gas golfing exercise. So I think that this is an interesting system to grow as a staking provider, to offer resources for developer for free without asking anything in return. That's the way I see it. Beyond that, before doing Node Gardens, I was doing a lot of grants for different foundations. When I was focusing a lot on Journal du Coin, I was trying to find a way to be economically viable without pushing some let's say dodgy projects. So we were applying for grants, and we were asked to do a lot of tech writing or content that abstract the complexity of a technical stack or something like that. And there was really a lot of demand. So that's pretty much what pushed me just for to do it in French. That's what gave me the hint that tech writing and dev-oriented resources are actually something in high demand. And I was like, how can we do it in a way that's more interactive, that's more involving, and that's that's not static. And that's how we went for that design that basically consists of doing these interactive challenges. So grants, to get back to grants, the integrations on Node Guardians, if we design, let's say, 50 hours of content on a new domain-specific language, that's going to take 2 or 3 months of engineering. So we can also take our margin on the labor that has been allocated to do this integration. That is one way we that's one way to make the whole enterprise viable. Then we do events, which are fortunately for now, so far, have been profitable ventures overall. There is the RPC concept. It's not yet deployed. We're still testing it, but this is something that we hope will be able to generate us income. And then there is the, being a grant distribution point. If you distribute resources for open source contribution and you do it effectively, foundations might want to have their dollars distributed through such an intermediary than distributing it directly themselves, because they might lose a lot if they do it directly themselves without all the data that intermediary might have. So if you distribute budget for contribution, that could be a way to generate income. But beyond that, matchmaking is important. Matchmaking means, like, let's say you matchmake one developer with how do we call that? With a job opportunity, provided they both consent and everything, you can take a cut on top of that. This is something that has been really battle tested by other players in the ecosystem. And this is something that comes in our roadmap, but each thing in its own time, we're not there yet. So that's pretty much how a platform like Node Guardians could generate income. These are, let's say, the 5 main axes. Then there are other things we can work on, like implementing liquid staking and doing other things on other networks. But I don't want to start talking about the ambitious stuff when this is just a blueprint that's hanging somewhere in our, on our Slack. So this is
come on, talk about the ambitious stuff.
No, it's not mature enough to be discussed, but a lot of other things we can also explore. But I've shared here what we think should help us to sustain ourselves.
Yeah. And with regards to the events and everything, I think there's also maybe like a play here with hackathons, where you could have like quests kind of
Exactly.
in collaboration with hackathons, like built into the platform, also bounties, like, yeah, there's just like so much cool stuff you could build for this.
Integrations.
Yeah.
If you integrate a small DeFi protocol with a set of quests to know how to integrate it, we can extend our offering at smaller price tags and diversify, and we can be able to onboard smaller actors with smaller campaigns and find ways to generate income while also helping them in their mission. That's one way. And we can also host hackathon through the platform and find something that's relevant both for the hackathon, like the network that we're supporting through that hackathon and ourselves. That's definitely something we are working on and thinking about. And then designing challenges for hackathon and organizing chain agnostic events is something we are at the moment working on for the middle of next year in Paris. Hopefully we'll be able to communicate about this early next year, but yeah, definitely something that we are very excited about, organizing offline events for developers, for everyone actually, but having the challenges of these hackathons in CTF designed in-house with our own, let's say, recipe and lore could be very fun to do. Yeah.
Yeah, we need to not overlap this year with our events.
I don't want to
Let's
miss
make sure.
The Nebular. I don't want to miss that one. Like it
You gotta
shouldn't
get your
happen.
hat, man.
No. This is definitely something I'm gonna work on. I cannot miss it this year.
Yeah, no, I'd love to get a StarkNet CC as well. Yeah, I mean, we've already started planning it, and we're already kind of like know when the date's going to be, and like there's other events also coming this year in addition to basically there's a big Cosmos event in addition to Nebular Summit that's going to be happening in Paris around that time.
That's exciting.
Can't say anything yet, but we're trying to coordinate on like what the dates are. So I'll keep you in the loop so that we can make sure we don't overlap.
Happy to visit, happy to support.
Yeah. Yeah. And then, okay. So, I mean, so look at the comments here. I want to ask you about this. Is this relevant or not?
Oh, there's no point, like, totally ignoring that.
Is this like just people trolling, or
I think this is not really relevant. It's true that there has been that document that has been shared on Financial Times about like whoever like in whatever investment FTX Ventures did or whatever, and yeah, a lot of people are speculating about why actually we received investment and everything, and yeah, I don't think it's like the most interesting topic. I don't think that we should provide explanation to this at this point, but I think explaining it through another session or another Medium post is definitely something I'll consider. But yeah, there's nothing really exciting about this. People should just enjoy the platform as it is, because the experience is not going to be bound to a token as people speculate on it. The token is, you should enjoy Node Guardian as it is, and that's it. There's not going to be a paywall or something to build or to use anything that we offer that is like, forcing you to have a token. And I think that's really what we should focus on. Let's forget about the one token or the airdrop and just try to use the platform as it is, because we're not planning to change the way we actually do things and the way we function. And that's pretty much all regarding like how things are allocated and everything. The only thing that I can say is that it's done in a rather really fair manner, and there will come a time when we'll be extremely transparent about this, and I'll be more than happy to explain all the intricacies about this. But I really want this project to be a community project, and things are not going to change. Just forget about drops or token and everything. This platform is, as it is, a platform that's for developers. You can use it for free. You don't need to share data, and I think that's the most important aspect about it. I don't plan to change that, and neither does the team want to, I think. Yeah.
So just for clarity here, because I'm just discovering this because I'm seeing these messages, so that's why I want to ask you. So
of course,
this New York Times thing, what is this New York Times thing?
So the Financial Times, I think,
Financial Times.
Yeah, they collaborated with the block research team to compile and release a sheet, a Google Sheet that compiles all the venture investments of FTX Ventures and Alameda. That's it. And it just shows that the venture arms of FTX and Alameda have been deploying more than $5 billion of capital across various crypto projects, and that's it. It shows the amounts and the
And so they had invested in Node Guardians. Is that
yes,
the
yeah,
thing that
yeah, it's one of yeah. And we're not like we could have communicated about this, but to be honest, I don't like. I know it's kind of it's a must do or something like that to communicate about your fundraise and everything. But to be really honest with you, I wanted to build that product and keep on building that product without ever revealing who we have been working with on this and who we raised from and how much we raised, because I think it takes us away from the main topic and our mission. And I'm a bit disappointed that I ended up having working with them, even though they have been dealing with amazing people. The person that we're managing this entity have been doing some like whatever happened, and it's kind of backlashing on us because we were meant to keep things secret, and we both agreed on that. And now it's just being disclosed, maybe to get engagement or to bring some more data on this whole drama. And we're kind of like getting some consequences out of that. But my vision was that I didn't want to celebrate a fundraise or make a PR and say, hey, look, we raised, please join our Discord. This is very off with what I'm trying to build, like from the bottom of my heart. So I'm very, very saddened by this. But now we can just keep on building and just forget about this. I don't think that something worse could have happened to us. We could have our treasury managed by entity A, B, or C, and this entity being insolvent. This didn't happen to us. Like our roadmap is not compromised, and I think we're still genuine. We're still like committed to building what we wanted to build. Then if people want to speculate or something or do something out of this information, this is their entire right. But there's nothing really relevant about this. In my
and there's a lot of projects on this list. Like, there's a ton of companies that and even like companies that reputable companies that are like in the Cosmos ecosystem, or people we've interviewed on like even Masari's on here.
A lot of layer ones, layer twos, cryptography research.
They were spraying everywhere.
Yeah.
And I think it's like
full disclosure will come anyway. It's just that we didn't want to. Part of our marketing, or let's say marketing, our PR strategy did not include communicating about a fundraiser. We need resources to build something that's sophisticated, and we need the right strategic partnership to increase our chance to succeed in the path we choose to take. So I could either build this myself in my corner or choose this path and do it this way. I still do not regret working towards this direction, doing it this way, to be really honest. But I couldn't know that this could happen. I got bamboozled. I was actually trusting these folks. My mistake. I was not like skeptical enough. I really thought that this would be a fruitful collaboration. But things happen. Things are like that. Let's keep on building. Maybe the debate is relevant for some people. To me, it is not. And we will still be communicating about all of this at some point. But right now, the imperatives are different on our side. That's the kind of answer I can offer to the community. And that's it.
Yeah, no, thanks for clearing it up. I mean, I wouldn't have asked you if I wouldn't have asked you if it was like so many people asking here in the channel.
I understand the questions. It's trendy, and but I try to dodge them. But I'm not gonna run away from it. I'm happy to actually have this debate, or like to actually react to this. But here is my very sincere opinion about this. Not cool, but it happened, man. What to do?
Okay, moving on. So tell me a little bit about I want to use this opportunity to maybe dive into the StarkNet ecosystem, because I think you're the guy that I know that is the most connected to that ecosystem, and I know nothing about it other than it's like Starkware is behind it, and so why is StarkNet so cool? I guess.
I think it's very personal. And what is really so? Why is StarkNet so cool? Oh, okay, so I'm optimistic about Ethereum, and I kind of see like the distribution of activity across different blockchains, rollups, execution environments in the future, and I can be totally wrong, as I can see it like, trading activity, commerce at a global scale. A lot of it seems to be happening in North America and Western Europe, and the 30% risk that's left is between BRICS and emerging economies and everything. So I think that Ethereum and its nexus, as I call it like that, with all the rollups and everything, is going to capture 60%, let's say, of that activity. So I took interest into rollups and scaling solutions for Ethereum, and I asked myself, obviously, I want to support all of them. I think all the designs and approaches to scaling are interesting. Some excite me a bit more than others, and I have a preference for validity proofs and ZK proofs. Then I started like looking at all these solutions and asked myself which one I want to celebrate, which one I'm most excited about. And personally, it was StarkNet. So as I told you earlier in the podcast, I heard about crypto and I started a bit reading about it when Zcash was doing its trusted setup. And so one of the founding scientists of Zcash was Eli Ben Sasson, who is a mathematician, an Israeli mathematician that has been committing a good part of his life into theoretical computing problems, and the research in these validity proofs. So he was involved with Zcash, which was a Zk-Snark-based primitive basic payment network. I don't think there are smart contracts there yet. I think it's potentially coming to the interchain, but I'm not sure about that. I think Zuko has been talking about it, he's very bullish about that. But anyway, I'm straying from the main path. And so I saw that in 2018, he withdrew from Zcash to start working on a new project called Starkware. And he authored a paper called Starks, a new kind of proof that have their own, like, let's say, properties, and that have their trade-offs and some advantages and everything. And they were looking to tackle the scaling Ethereum kind of problem back in 2018. What I found very interesting is that they were among the first to work in this path, and the provenance, their background as researchers, makes them, to me, extremely legitimate to actually explore such technologies and develop them. And I was like, wow, after making a market-ready, the first, let's say, accessible use of zero-knowledge proof, like it's something from the 80s or 84, 85. I think the Goldwasser paper is very old. It actually comes to fruition and becomes like applied to real business, or like to real purpose. And now they're trying to expand it and work on other solutions. So that's what got me excited from, like, let's say, the science side of things. So they're working on this solution, and I really like what StarkNet is doing, because if you take a look at the chronology and the evolution of the product, they were pioneering, and they were working on these problems very early on, and they took design choices that are not necessarily the best for mass adoption on the short term, but they're not necessarily, for instance, working primarily on the ZK EVM, but they're going for their own mathematically provable language. They were thinking and tackling these issues before it was actually a big debate on the crypto space. And I think that this is something that's very respectable. Another thing that's nice about this technology is that, these proving systems and rollups, they're evolving at a pace that is surprising us. We were thinking that this thing would be production ready by 2026, back in 2018, probably. It was not really something that sounded like reality. And now we're talking about mainnets for such systems starting from next year or even this year. So it's really moving fast, because a lot of money has been poured in it, and a lot of interest from brains from all around the world is directed towards this. And among all the solutions that exist in these validity proof and zero knowledge rollups, I think that's what's interesting about Starkware's technology and StarkNet, is that Starkware battle tested it first through something called StarkX. So StarkX is a permissioned, it's not permissionless, rollup that they deploy for you. They do the compression for you, basically, and they post the proof on Ethereum mainnet, and any business can run on a StarkX, like Sorare, DYDX, and everything. And so over the last 2 years,
is Sorare still doing StarkX, or
yeah,
they're still doing all?
I think, yeah, Sorare. DYDX is shifting to Cosmos,
Yeah.
but it's been running for a good chunk of its time on the StarkX. a lot of things like so-called immutable X, different solutions I think are leveraging this technology. I might be wrong about immutable. I don't know if it's a term. I think, yeah, it's a StarkX. And they battle tested it for millions of NFT means, hundreds of millions of, perpetual like trading set trades that have been settled and everything. And it's been like rather stable over the last 2 years. And they have some data to basically move forward and migrate towards something that is open, permissionless, and ready to support any form of business logic with decent, let's say, liveness guarantees. So I think it's a nice point that StarkNet has against other solutions. But I'm not trying to segregate the others. I'm very excited about Polygon zkEVM, about what Scroll is doing in collaboration with the Ethereum Foundation. Very excited about also optimistic approaches. Fuel in particular is something that I find rather original, optimism and Arbitrum. But yeah, so I really like what StarkNet is doing. And so Cairo is a tricky choice, but it's also a very elegant thing. And I think that they're going for that path because the team is convinced that making this choice is what will offer true scalability. And right now, block space is in lesser demand than it used to be, but they might come a time where gas and efficiency might make the difference. And if you decide to not do any like you don't do a zkEVM, you have your own language that is optimized for proof generation at the lowest level, you can really get these performances that will be ready to onboard, let's say, that will make your system ready to onboard really millions of users. And I think that this is likely to pay out in some context. And I think that's very interesting to see how this is going to play out, because right now we don't have any objective benchmark on how these ZK systems perform in production. Like there's nothing that proves you that this thing is actually faster. I think there's some experiments that are being done, but it is still very foggy. When it comes to compatibility, I think that in the short term, zkEVMs are actually gonna still win, because people are not gonna bother probably for most learning a new language that is not the sexiest to get like maximal gas efficiency, because you want to get ready to do business fast while learning the least stuff, and it's normal. That's why we take decisions. You want the project to cost the least. So zkEVMs might capture a lot of attention. But in the longer term and mid-term, I still think that what they're doing is very valuable. And StarkNet is not totally irrelevant when it comes to the whole zkEVM thingy, because you have some kind of type 4 compatibility with Solidity through what Nethermind is doing with the transpiler. You can put your Solidity code and transpile it into Cairo and basically have it work, but it needs some adjustments, not perfectly compatible, and you need to revise a lot of things. Not all of the tooling might be compatible. It's not an ideal experience, definitely, but they're working now on a layer, on a zkEVM on a layer 3 that's built as a layer 3 on top of StarkNet, which is called Kakarot in reference to Dragon Ball Z. And this is a zkEVM that targets the Cairo VM. It is almost opcode complete. 90% of the opcodes are supported. Some tricky ones are still left, but it's been built very fast. And now we're getting to the other exciting part about StarkNet. It's been built very fast with contributors that from all around the world. They just sat and gathered in Lisbon, and within a few days, it all started from some meme on Twitter that was basically, I think, like joking, laughing at StarkNet, like trying to build this super sophisticated language that might never find mass adoption, while others are just realistically building a solution that caters to most people. A fair take, you would say. And one of my friends, who's the head of ecosystem, took it it was very painful to him, and he was just like, "I'm gonna build that behavior. I'm so pissed." And so he gathers contributors and different contributors from all around the world through systems like OnlyDust and other communities. Everyone gathers, hack together, and work very efficiently in a distributed manner. And they're all glued together through various initiatives like community events, like in the StarkNet space, not only StarkNet CC, the StarkNet buildings. The community is very everyone is keen to help each other and everyone is trying to solve each other's problem. And that's some kind of dynamic and energy, a will to help one another that's, at least from my perspective, I haven't seen in other communities. And I could be totally wrong on this. Maybe I didn't sit at the right moment at the right time, to see such kind of things in other community. But it's very unique, the way people interact, the way people help each other, the synergies that you have, how people come to StarkNet for the love of the technology itself, the level of commitment that you find. Yeah, Cairo is some kind of big filter. It's not the sexiest language at all to learn, but if you come there, well, you could have done something that's maybe easier. You could have built something on in Solidity, and totally respectable. You could have chosen another path. People go there because they appreciate some specific concept of that stack. Whether it is Cairo and what it will enable you to do in the future, its guarantees, whether it is account abstraction. And so I think that, yeah, this purity, this like kind of genuineness from the community is also what makes StarkNet interesting. And it's not obsolete because there's still an agenda to support higher level languages and Solidity.
Okay.
So it's going to take time, but I believe that it's going to happen. And hopefully it's going to happen. And cool projects are being built, and blue chips are also being ported. It's going to take time. It's going to take a lot of money, unfortunately, but Aave is coming to StarkNet. Maker is coming to StarkNet, and hopefully we'll have all the bricks of a mature DeFi stack that arrive on that ecosystem. So yeah, no, I'm not a VP from StarkNet.
No, it's interesting. I think one of the things that resonates with me here is the sort of pureness of the interests of the community, right? Like people are there, and like it's just like it is this this thing that the learning curve is fairly high, right? Because you have to learn this new language, this new like abstraction, but people still gravitate toward that community because of the tech, right? And like I think that is also one of the reasons why a lot of people are in the Cosmos ecosystem as well, like, and why they're like these kind of under the radar ecosystems. And I've tried to capture this in a way that, because like we're raising a fund right now, and like we're talking to investors, and they're like, what's this Cosmos thing? Like, why haven't I heard of this, or like just kind of barely heard about it? And I think one of the things is, well, it's under the radar because people are really in it for the tech, or at least until now, there's been like a really core group of people that have been in it for the tech. The tech works, and it scales, and like people are building cool stuff on it, and like now it's starting to get a bit of interest. And I feel like when you're telling me about the StarkNet ecosystem, it kind of resonates a lot of those same rings those same bells for me. And then the other thing I wanted to ask is, when you say that like Aave and Maker are deploying there, that's interesting, because up until now, as far as I know, those projects have only deployed to EVM chains.
Yes.
Now they're deploying to, so basically they have to port their code in order for it to be compatible on StarkNet.
Yeah. They're funding this with their treasuries, their respective treasuries. They're granting this, and over the last 18 months probably, or 12 months, they have been full focused on porting their existing code base into Cairo. And now this, I think, effort is coming to a certain level of maturity, and now it's getting audited. Super long, it's not easy, but they've made the choice to support StarkNet. So I think it's also a nice signal and an acknowledgement that this technology is rather relevant. So yeah, it's exciting to see that they also make that choice and leave the EVM path to also support Cairo.
Yeah. That's huge. I mean, I think that sets a huge precedent also for other ecosystems that are not EVM, like like Solana, like Cosmos, like Polkadot, where there's typically like there's really like a divide like between the EVM world and where projects just have to take their EVM. It's a culture, but it's also like it's technology, right? Like, I mean, you got all your code base and everything in EVM compatible, like Solidity. It's a lot of work to port all those functionalities and then have to maintain that over time. So yeah, I think it like sets an interesting precedent. Yeah.
We'll see how it goes.
Yeah.
We'll see how it goes. Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah. No, I was gonna say, like, tell me about your conference. So you did the first one last summer on the same day as Nebular.
In Paris, yes.
And then
it was
in
one
Paris.
in Lisbon.
You did one in Lisbon.
4 weeks ago, and now the community actually did it in Bangalore a week ago. It's not even us anymore. It's becoming some kind of, if global. Like what I wanted to see is, the community takes ownership of this. We help them with like getting the word out among the developers, the community, but we're not taking any tax on top of it. You host your StarkNet CC in the environment that you know best. You think you can do it, we'll do our very best to support you. And like the folks from like Rohit and the team, and I think Pranav from the Graph, they teamed up and they pulled up a huge hackathon and event in Bangalore for ETH India, and it's pretty moving to see it becoming something
That's
that's,
amazing.
that's it's not my thing anymore. So it's amazing. It's amazing. And now it's coming to Israel in February at a smaller scale.
Of
And there are
course.
projects to bring it to Turkey and Argentina in March and April. So it's not us that's carrying those. It's other entities and projects that are spearheading the effort, and we're just like lending them helping hand, and that's
And
cool. I
just
think.
giving them license to use the brand and
Yeah. So we're not asking any fees. We actually help them getting the sponsors and making the events economically viable. We don't. It's not like a lucrative business, but we just make sure that it fits. Like you cannot make it something about like to speak about, let's say, weird stuff, dodgy stuff. It still has to be a tech centric conference.
yeah.
There needs to be some element to replicate the Stack necessity recipe, some workshops, some tech talks, and some talks that are accessible to everyone. It still needs to be fun for everyone. So the StarkNet CC conference has to offer content for people that is intelligible for people that do not have a CS background. So if you basically adjust everything to kind of fit the StarkNet CC vibe, yeah, there you go. You can go wherever it is, whenever it is. Yeah,
That's
that's the way
super
it works.
cool.
So it's a
I
dev-centric
don't.
conference. Yeah, sorry.
No, I was just gonna say that's super cool. Like, I mean, that they just picked it up by themselves and decided to do that on their own.
Yeah.
I'd
So
love to. I'd love for someone. I mean, if there's anybody out there that wants to do a Nebular event somewhere around the world, uh,
man,
I'll help you do it. So
Man, don't. You can speak about like the interchange, but it can be a very long podcast. But this is something appealing to me actually. A fun challenge I would like to take in the future if I ever have the time. If it's open to carry the Nibbler spirit somewhere else. I mean, like,
yeah,
could be
do
interesting. Could be interesting.
do it in Dubai
Or in Korea.
or in Korea. Yeah. Someone's looking. Someone here is waiting to see you in Argentina.
Let's see. I really hope this day happens, man. See you in Argentina then. I hope we can take it there.
Yeah. Hey, we didn't talk about this, but what's this bare metal versus
Hey,
cloud infra?
what's my contrarian take? You asked me about this. I've been thinking
I
about
mean,
this.
I don't think it's that contrarian, but
Yeah, but like, okay, no, I hate trading analysis. I think a lot of builders probably are not like fond of this, but I don't like trading analysis, and I clash a lot about this. I think that this is
trading
some
it.
kind of
Trading analyst like
yeah, like
chart.
the charts reading analysis, the chart based analysis,
Yeah,
techniques. Yeah, I don't like that. And I think I clash. I've been clashing a lot, very often about this. So I don't comment about this anymore on social and stuff like that. But I just think that this is some very occult science, and this is borderline. It's unhealthy. It's really unhealthy, and I think that's the debate, the object, the thing I've been debating most, where a lot of people do not agree with me. I'm very allergic to trading. Regarding the bare metal and versus cloud debate, it's just to annoy my friend and CTO, who is basically militating to everything's running on the cloud at Node Guardians, but I'm advocating for bare metal because I want us to be super keen from a financial standpoint. Bare metal instances tend to be much cheaper than than cloud-based systems, and
yeah.
also you get more IOPS, you get better performance since you have all the raw power of the
All the
disk and
resources of the
machine.
box. Yeah,
Yeah, so you miss less blocks on for instance like the hub and stuff like that, and of course that comes with other trade-offs in terms of I believe security and everything. But this is one of the clashes that has been very very common in my daily life over the last few days. So I would be very curious if there are developers from or validators watching this podcast, the interrupt, that are running chains in the interchain. I would love to see in the comments once this gets eventually online tomorrow in the future. I would love to see some comments about how people are building their infrastructure and what's their take regarding this question.
I had this this kind of learning journey, I guess, sometime about mid of the year when I started running an Evmos validator. And yeah, it was like, okay, where do I go through an infrastructure provider? Do I run it internally? Do we run it on bare metal? Do we do Sentry nodes? And I talked to a bunch of people, and everybody has their own opinions on how to do it. And to some extent, I think it's kind of cool. Like, I think it's cool that everyone's infrastructure is running on a different setup. It kind of maybe creates some robustness in the infrastructure. I think what really needs to be addressed is the seeming tendency for certain service providers or certain cloud providers or bare metal providers to capture a lot of those servers. So, I think on Cosmos, like, I don't know how many are using Hetzner, right? Just because it's cheap and they do bare metal. But then you have
Solana and Hetzner, they kicked everyone out.
Exactly. Yeah, they kicked everyone out. So I think this is something that we need to address, and I'm hoping that either Polkachu or not Polkachu, but one of these dashboards maybe just also shows like, hey, like here are the validators that are running on like AWS. Here are the validators, and you can get an idea. And then also, I think for validators, I think maybe don't really have a good idea of what other infrastructure providers are running on, and having that information be kind of publicly available and for everyone to see maybe causes you to pause and say, hey, like, I'm not going to run on AWS. I might run on some other infrastructure because, or some like local cloud provider in my country because we want to be more decentralized.
It's a very nasty topic because it would be ideal that I use my garage and I ask for some specific plan to get nice internet with better SLAs to run the racks in my garage, and I get to run my nodes at home. But it is very hard to have the same availability levels and performance levels that, for instance, AWS or GCP have in their data centers. Like, it's the expertise that they've built over like decades or years and years, and they have a staff that's working round the clock 24/7 to ensure that each component is like working flawlessly. Everything is like cooled in an efficient way, blah 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 blah. And the software
This is why no company runs their own intranet anymore or runs their own web server. Like, everybody
Yeah, and GCP, dashboarding, the interface, it's very comfortable, and Kubernetes, like their implementation of Kubernetes, like you have like all these tools that make you want to stick to a specific provider against another. But in an ideal world, I guess you need to have a backup node that's running on another provider. Eventually, that's not subject to the Patriot Act, or that is in another jurisdictions, or that is using another. Yeah, designs can be very. There are a lot of approaches that can be taken, but yeah, it's very hard to choose like the least popular providers to mitigate risk, because also the experience you get out of them or their availability is poor. Like, for instance, this Vulture, it's one of the providers we use, for instance, for some test nets. They have sometimes some very nasty maintenances that are, they happen very often, or sometimes they happen they don't warn you ahead of time. Some stuff happens and your workload is stopped. And so that's it. What if your node was monitored in the context of I don't know, a delegation program or something like that? It can still have a lot of So you really want to work with the best, but at the same time, if you work with the best, you concentrate the activity with the best, and then like comes all the backlash from making such choices, all the drawbacks. Sorry. So I like that question. I really like this whole infrastructure choice kind of debate. It's very fun.
Yeah, I also like it. I find myself often getting into like DevOps conversations with people, even though I don't do a lot of DevOps It's like, it's like I don't know. It's like building stuff, right? Like you're actually like using infrastructure and building a tech stack and like making sure it's robust and making sure it's backup so that you can like access it and secure it. It's like I kind
You
of
go
like it.
on
I think it's
Occlusions architecture paper as an
I read
inspiration.
that thing.
Kind
I
of-
read that thing. It was like, this is the grail. Yeah, that is not our setup, and we're actually changing our setup. Um, but yeah, listen, this has been really fun. Thanks for coming on and sharing about Node Guardians and StarkNet, and yeah,
Thank
just
you.
shooting the shit
Thank you
here.
so much.
Should
Thank
come back
you.
again
And
sometime soon.
I'll be happy to. And you should hop on the podcast too. And thanking everyone who's also on the live chat or watching this. And if you have some time, give a try to Node Guardians and tell us what you think, how we can improve it, what we can add, what kind of content you'd like to see. And we're soon coming, getting things started on YouTube. And yeah, we'll be covering all sorts of topics. And you're also welcome to give it a try once it's live. And yeah, again, thank you.
All right, thanks, Sam. And to our listeners, thanks for tuning in. I do live streams every Thursday. And if you want to get notified when I go live, you can hit the notification bell, hit the like button, but subscribe. You should definitely subscribe to the channel, and you'll get notified when we go live every week. So thanks again for tuning in, and I'll see you next week.